Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Germany once again, and we're going to continue on with this little mini-series of German reviews that I've been doing for you over the last few videos. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is from another brewery that has never featured on the channel before, but these guys are one that have been recommended to me on the channel a good few times, but I'd never actually managed to come across one of their beers, so thankfully we finally solved that problem. So the beer itself is a style that I very much enjoy, and one that I have been getting back into again over the last few years, having really first gotten into it when I lived in Germany back in 2014, but it is supposed to be a very nice example of that particular style as well. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then we are going to head to Regensburg, which is in the northern part of Bavaria in Germany, and we are going to have a look then at my first beer from Thurn Und Brauerei. So this particular beer is simply called Hell. It comes in at 4.7% ABV, and as you might guess from the name, this one is a German Helles lager. So yeah, lovely nice German blonde lager, this one. I love my German Helles beers, and like I say, this is a brewery that has been recommended to me a few times. This was once the local brewery of my good friend Peter, the Clueless Drinker, as well. I know that he was a big fan of the Thurn Und beers as well. So yeah, big shout out to him in this review. I'll try to remember to put the link to his channel in the video description below. He and I are both massive fans of the different German beer styles. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what the beer has in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future, hopefully from Thurn Und. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers like I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the German playlist along with a number of other things, and we will be adding to that again over the next little while. So keep your eyes peeled to that. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes and I'll tell you a wee bit about Thurn Und. So, as I've mentioned to you already, Thurn Und Brewery are based in Regensburg in the northern part of Bavaria in Germany. If it's I think it's northeast if I remember correctly. But the brewery takes its name from Franz von Taxis, who lived from 1459 to 1517, and he's famous for having developed the first fast system for sending messages to Emperor Maximilian, which was what became the modern German mail service. So this was apparently the first cross-border communication network, and it helped create fast land connections between European economic centres of the time. This would have been at the time, I believe, that Germany was part of the Holy Roman Empire. But over time, other services were added to this, including like payments and travel services, and this was known as the Taxische Post. But when it came time to nationalise the postal service in Bavaria, the kingdom ceded the Reichsstift St. Emmeram in Regensburg to the Thurn Und family in 1812 as a kind of compensation, and this brought with it 150 years of brewing expertise. So the St. Emmeram Monastery Brewery is one of the very old brewing sites in Europe, and over the years a number of other local and regional breweries became part of this company. So they centred their operations in Schierling near Regensburg, and the company was apparently instrumental in promoting the Pilsner style and also non-alcoholic beers throughout Germany. So yeah, there isn't much that I can find in terms of the history of this brewery from when it was given to the Thurn Und family in 1812. But yeah, it seems to have kind of grown over the years, done a lot and taken in a lot of other little breweries and passed down the family until 1996, at which point it was bought over by the Paulaner Group, and so the Thurn Und beers these days are produced by them. I'm not sure if they are still brewed in Regensburg itself or if they're brewed down in Paulaner's site in Munich. It could well be a combination of both. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Thurn Und for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys though, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. But like I say, the Thurn Und stuff, it's all listed under the Paulaner page when it comes to Untappd. But yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So as you can see, this one is a fairly standard German half-litre bottle. It looks very nice there. You can see the crest on this one. I'm not sure if this would have been, I think this, yeah, this would have been the crest of the old Taxis Post, I guess, perhaps. So yeah, you can see the TT, Thurn Und. I think that's a really cool label actually, this one. You can see you've got the nice top label as you get with many German beers as well, and then of course you have the Thurn Und label on the top there as well. So yeah, this one, like we said earlier, it comes in at 4.7% ABV. It is a German Helles lager. So the definition of a Helles lager is essentially, you know, a blonde lager. It can vary a little bit across the country. For me, the Dortmunder Helles is a little bit more, I would say it's a little bit more kind of hoppy and bitter in comparison, but the Munich Helles is a little bit more kind of smooth and bready and things like that. And of course you do have the Czech Svetli as a kind of analogue beer of this. So yeah, Svetli is basically the Czech, or one of the Czech blonde lagers that you can get in addition to Pilsen. So yeah, a German Helles lager for me is a blonde lager, and the technical definition of course of a lager in comparison to an ale is the fact that lagers undergo fermentation at lower temperatures using bottom fermenting yeasts, whereas ales ferment at higher temperatures using top fermenting yeast. Usually about 8 to 12 degrees for a lager, about 15 to 18 degrees or so for an ale. But yeah, that's the technicalities over with this one. Let's get the beer out into the glass and see what it's all about. I think this is going to be really nice, and it is quite cool actually that I can review one of Peter's old local beers. I think that's pretty awesome, so hopefully he enjoys this video when he sees it. Peter, very good friend, absolute madman, big into his movies, loves his craft beer as well, but I know, like me, he loves his German lagers. So there we are. Definitely cool to review one that was one of his locals. So there we are. Yeah, so if you know this style, you can tell right away it's poured pretty much as you would expect. So before the head disappears in this one, we can see that it's poured with just under a finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream coloured head. It's not perfect white in my mind, but you can see there's a mix of kind of bumpy bubbles at the top there and smoother foamy ones underneath, a few kind of medium-sized ones in there too. But yeah, the head will fade away as time goes on. But you can see the colour of the beer is that lovely, typical, pale, golden straw that you would expect of the Helles lager. It's quite obviously been filtered as well because of how clear it is, and you can see there's a nice, steady stream of carbonation just going up toward the bottom side of that head there. So yeah, it does look pretty damn nice, I have to say. And nothing overly surprising about this appearance when you consider what style the beer is. But yeah, I do like this. Yeah, in terms of the colour of the beer, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour too, but you don't often have to care about that when it comes to the Helles lagers. So yeah, that is definitely worth keeping in mind when it comes to these beers, but nothing untoward about the appearance of this one. Steady stream of carbonation there. Let's have a wee look at the aroma and see what this beer is all about. Oh yeah, it does smell absolutely lovely. There's just something about these German brewed lager beers that you just have to love. I think it's the German malt that gets me. And over the years of doing these beer videos, I have developed a very distinctive, a very able nose, I guess we could say, for picking out, you know, German malts. I would not be surprised if the malt used in this comes from Bayern. One, because I know that it's quite close to the brewery, and two, it just sets off my nose, to be honest with you. But yeah, the aroma coming out of this one is absolutely lovely. It gives you everything you would expect of the style. Good little bit of breadiness, some lovely German noble hoppy character, and just a little touch of fruitiness. Of course, the Helles Lager is by no means the most complex style of beer that you're going to find from Germany. That's probably reserved for some of the Weizenbocks and the Eisbocks and the Doppelbocks and stuff like this. But the Helles Lager, for me, is a lovely style. I really do like this. In terms of sessionable beers, for me, it's quite hard to beat a nice German Helles to start off with. So yeah, let's break the aroma down and just describe it a wee bit more in depth for you before we actually taste the beer. So for me, the backbone of this one, you've got a lovely kind of smooth, fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of the beer. So that's in there, lovely smooth white bready bread crust. You can almost smell that it's got a little bit of like flour or something to it as well, which I think is really quite nice. So it's almost like it's straight fresh out of the bakery, a little bit of floury, fresh, white bready bread crust. On top of that, you have a little bit of a kind of wholemeal, you have a little touch of a sweet wholemeal brown bready character as well, which is great. So absolutely love that. And then, above everything else, you start to get that fluffy, above that you start to get that fluffy white bready character coming out of the beer, which I think is just lovely. That's the distinctive thing about a nice Helles Lager for me. So yeah, that just big, fluffy and smooth white bready character with a wee bit of sweet brown bread underneath it. I think it goes together really, really nicely, actually. Yeah, awesome. So, in terms of the, in terms of the malty side of things, the only other thing to say is that you do get a little touch of woodiness out of this one, the further into the aftertaste that you go, and also you do get a little bit more graininess out of it, but there is a wee touch of sweetness in there too. In the middle of the nose you have a little touch of like honeycomb. You do have a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuity character coming out of this one, but yeah, I think the way that everything goes together in this malty base, it's very typical of the style. It's not surprising, but for me it's just something that I really quite enjoy. But let's move on to the hoppy side of the beer then, and we'll have a look at that. So the noble hops in this one are, you know, pretty typical of what you'd expect from both Tecknang and Hallertau hops. It didn't say which region their hops come from, but I'm guessing this is using like Mittelfrüh or something like that. But for me, you get that lovely, smooth, earthy character out of the beer. There's a little touch of a herbal thing going on as well, and then you also have a really nice little bit of you get a nice bright floral aromaticity at the front of the nose, and also a kind of more wet grassiness coming out of this beer, which I think is really nice. So yeah, and for me, the green component leans toward a more floral note, but it's also got a really nice kind of wet grassiness in there. So yeah, the way the aroma goes together in this, I think, is really very, very nice. Yeah, the hops just kind of go in nicely with the bread crust. Again, it's just very typical of the style. I could sit and smell these beers all day. But on the fruity side of things, it is again what you'd expect. You've got a lovely little bit of a kind of sultana type quality to this one, which is great. So yeah, lovely little bits of sultana in there. You've got a nice wee bit of there's a little bit of dry apricot for me as well. So yeah, a little bit of sultana, little touch of dry apricot. and then on top of that there's a wee bit of oily pear, and then yeah, you do have on top of that you've got a really nice little bit of kind of, there is just a little touch of like a gooseberry or slightly a limey character coming out of this one too. But yeah, maybe, no, maybe not, maybe fresh green apple and gooseberry I think is a good way to describe the fruity character in this one. But yeah, sultana, oily pear, little touch of apricot underneath, and then yeah, you've got a wee bit of kind of just like gooseberry or fresh green apple or something with this one. So yeah, a very, very nice smelling beer I have to say, and it gets a thumbs up from me. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the aroma. But as I always say, take a bit of time just to enjoy the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But yeah, I think this one, I think it's about time that we have a taste of this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Thurn Und Hell from the Thurn Und Brauerei in Regensburg in the northern part of Bavaria, Bayern in Germany. Let's get stuck into this one. A 4.7% Helles Lager. Massive shout out, of course, to my good friend Peter, the clueless drinker. Slange, skål, cheers, prost. It's just a really satisfying beer, this one. As you would kind of expect, it doesn't do anything unusual with the style. But as I've said many a time with some of these, with these German beers, you know, when you drink things like this, you see why the Germans, along with the Czechs I would say as well, are the masters of quality control. You know, brewing on the big scale is a much different beast to brewing the kind of smaller craft beers and things like this. But yeah, you really cannot knock these German Helles Lagers. These are really, really solidly done. So as I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, it gives you everything you'd want from the style. Again, you've got a little bit of that breadiness. You've got a nice little bit of sweetness in the malt base as well, but not too much. It's more of a bready Helles Lager, this one. You've got a good little bit of kind of hoppy character. It's not a very bitter beer, this one, wouldn't say that at all. And you've just got that nice little bit of oily, fruity character coming out of it too. So yeah, the way this goes together I think is really, really nice. So, yeah, where do we start with this one then? Middle third of your palate. The backbone of the beer has that lovely, smooth, kind of white bready, bread crusty character. That absolutely forms the backbone of this beer. So, yeah, the backbone of the beer for me, lovely, smooth, fresh, straight out of the bakery, white bready bread crust. On top of that, you have a really nice, yeah, on top of that, you have a really nice sort of kind of wholemeal brown bready character. And the brown, that's the one place I would say that this beer really diverges in the flavour from the aroma. This beer is a white bready bread crust, but then you have this wholemeal, sweet wholemeal brown bready layer sitting above that. And as you move further forward, on the front third, as you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you do get a little touch of a kind of woody type character coming out of this one. So yeah. Yeah, this one here, getting a bit of a cough there, but yeah, this one is really just very, very nice. I can see why Peter Peter would probably knock back a good few of these during his time in Regensburg, and I can see why he told me this is a brewery I should have a look at. Absolutely. We've stated that many a times. But yeah, on top of the kind of brown bready layer, the kind of more dense, sweet brown bready layer, above that you get that lovely, fluffier, white bready character coming out of the beer. So, on top of that, top of the white bread really is quite sweet, and as I say, this is the bready characters you get out of this are just really, really very nice. But on top of the white bready character, you start to get the kind of sweetness out of the beer. So, on top of that bready character, there's like a little circle in the middle of your palate there. So straight up sweet. It's got like a little bit of a, maybe it does have like the tiniest little bit of caramel in the dead centre of your palate, or like a concentrated biscuit. But as you move out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, you do get quite a little bit of you do get a little bit more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type flavour coming out of the beer. So yeah, in the aftertaste, a little bit of woodiness, the sweet brown bread, and also the kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. So, yeah, in terms of that McVitie's biscuity note, it really does linger into the aftertaste. It's just, you get a lovely sweetness out of this. I think this is quite an interesting hill for me because it does have a good little bit of crispness to it, but the malt base really strikes me as being quite sweet in some ways. It really is one of the sweeter ones. But yeah, I think that covers the middle third of your palate with this one. I think that's everything we need to say about this beer on that middle third of the palate at least. So, border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a kind of bready build up in there. On the base, it's that kind of wholemeal brown bready type character. Above that, it's got the more sort of white bready character coming out of it. But yeah, I think that does go together really quite nicely. Yeah, the back third of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of, and as I've often said, the back third of the palate, you'll get similar flavours to what you do in the middle third of your palate, but they just come out in different intensities. But remember that general trend with the with your palate, that you'll get sweeter flavours further forward and the more kind of dry and bitter flavours a little bit further back. You will notice that. But yeah, for me, this one, on the back third of your palate, you can feel that the bread crusty character is just that little bit drier and more grainy. You've got a little bit of an almost kind of crackery, like cream crackery character just sitting on top of that bread crust, and then you've got a wholemeal brown bready layer. Yeah, you've got a wholemeal kind of brown bready layer on top of that, which is a bit lighter and more airy, of course, in comparison to the middle third of your palate. Then on top of that, you've got the fluffier white bready layer, which is quite a lot taller and really light and airy in a sense. And above everything else, on that back third of your palate, you can feel a little bit of the kind of drier, sweet, biscuity characters just coming out of the beer too. So that's definitely that's definitely a nice thing. So yeah, the biscuit flavours sit on top, and then you start to get the yeasty character out of the beer. And for me, the yeasty character in this beer is like really light and airy. It's like a fresh, fluffy, kind of wholemeal, brown bready sort of base that you get. And then above that, or within that, well, it's like a little ball almost. You feel that really dense brown bready character there. It's got a little bit of woody character to it. It's a little bit farmhousey. Then it's just kind of wrapped in a wee bit more of a. It is wrapped in a little bit of a kind of honeycomb type thing. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together in that respect is really nice too. So again, a big thumbs up from me. But definitely you can feel on the back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, Nice stuff, very nice stuff. On the hoppy side of things then, and it's kind of what you'd expect, in the back corners of the palate you've got a lovely little bit of earthiness there, but that's quite minimal. As you move further forward, the beer becomes quite herbal rather quickly, I would say, and as you reach the kind of front corners of your palate, it gives you a little bit more sort of floral, aromatic type character as well. So, yeah, really nice sort of floral aromatic character in there, but yeah, around the front curve of the tongue, the beer has a little bit of a lighter, grassy sort of thing going on with it. And yeah, the grassy character is actually, the green component of this beer is actually really quite wet, I would say that about this one. But yeah, the floral character's there, the grassiness is just that little bit wetter, and overall it is really quite nice in that sense. But yeah, I do like this one. Very nicely done beer, as I've said on a good few occasions. Let's look at the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get a little bit of a bready build-up. It's got a kind of brown bready character in the base and a white bready character just above that, I would say. And then the base of that front third of your palate, you can feel the white bread crust again, the wholemeal brown bread, and then the smoother white bread just sitting above that. So, the fruity side of things for me, yeah, the fruity side of things for me is quite interesting too, because it gets a little bit more oily the further into the aftertaste that you go. But yeah, at the back of that, front third of your palate, you get a really nice sort of, I would say, definitely sultana, you know, like dry white green grapes. There's a good little bit of sultana type quality coming out of this beer. But then, as you move further forward from that, you get a little bit more of a kind of, or you get like a mix. There's a little touch of dry apricot in the dead centre of that front third of your palate, but then there's a more oily, peary type note on top of it. And then, yeah, for me, as you move further forward, as you move further forward, you've got a good little bit of a more, as I say, you get a little bit of gooseberry almost in that front half of the front third of your palate, and it's got a bit of a kind of fresh green apple-y type note sitting above it. So yeah, sultana, dry apricot, oily pear, gooseberry, fresh green apple. For me, that kind of summarises the fruity notes that you're getting out of this beer. Yeah, so let's round off the entire review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. For me, it's a very, you know, this is a light-bodied beer, kind of in the middle range of light-bodied. The carbonation it's got a little bit of crispiness to it, but the beer for me is quite wet and light and crisp. I think that's a fair way to describe this one. In terms of the IBUs, I think it's a fairly standard 20-ish, which is normal for the style. The malty backbone, yeah, the malty backbone has a lovely little bit of maybe, what would we say? Yeah, the malty backbone has a little bit of kind of, it's got a bit of dryness, lovely kind of smoothness in the middle, with a bit of sweetness to it, and then a little touch of sweetness on top, but as I say, a wee bit of crispness too. The hoppy character in there leans more toward the kind of floral and grassy side of things the more that you drink of this beer, and the fruity character is just nice and oily, but gets a little bit drier into the aftertaste too. But overall, as I said, this is a very, very nice Helles. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this one again, and it does make me a wee bit curious to try some of the other beers in the Thurn Und range. I'm pretty sure they have a Pilsner. I'm sure I've seen a Thurn Und Pilsner around, and I think there's a Dunkel and maybe a Weiss beer in there as well. So we need to have a look at those and just see what we can get a hold of. But yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say about this particular beer. So yeah, this one was the Thurn Und Hell from the Thurn Und Brauerei in Regensburg in the northern part of Bavaria in southern Germany. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Thurn Und range as well, and we will see about returning to these guys at some point in the very near future. Check out my good friend Peter over at the Clueless Drinker. I'm pretty sure he's reviewed a good few of the Thurn Und beers, and we will return to these guys again at some point very, very soon. Hopefully, maybe Peter and I could do a kind of joint review of one of these beers or something like that. That would be really interesting. But check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very shortly. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.